5 seasons, 128 episodes, and thousands of dollars spent on plastic garbage our spouses explicitly told us not to buy? We've battled brittle plastic, dead batteries, and controllers that flat out refused to control. Yeah, I know. But honestly, we couldn't have suffered through it without you. To our incredible subscribers, thank you for validating our midlife nostalgia crisis. You are the AA batteries to our Game Boy, the isopropyl alcohol to our dirty cartridge pins. We reached 128 episodes because you keep clicking play on those glorious time machine. Season 5 is officially here. Lock and load your quarters because we aren't stopping until the credit card declines. That's right. We're here for Season 5 of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Ready to go with another fantastic episode. And we are also in the midst of the summer season on Jay's All TV channel. So why not, let's start with episode number 129, get ourselves to the music with all new stuff, because this is where we take it to the next level right now on Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Okay, happy summer to all of you and welcome back to Jay's Retro Toys and Games. I'm your host, Jason DeCanio, and boy, we've got a great, ready-to-go show here for you. If I could pull up my script, that would be great. Where's my script? Where are you? It disappeared. Oh, it's so funny just have this script disappear when you want it to come up. Let's pull it up this time. Here we go. Welcome back to a brand new season of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. I'm your host, Jay, and this season we are diving deep into the strangest, wildest, and most useless accessories of the 8-bit era. Grab your juice boxes because today we are aiming for greatness, or at least aiming 3 inches to the left of the television screen. Look at this thing. Feast your eyes on the sheer, unadulterated, engineering majesty of the Spectravideo Quickshot Deluxe sighting scope for the NES. Released to a world of unsuspecting children who generally believed the 90s would feature flying cars, this hunk of molded styrene promised to transform your humble NES Zapper into a high-precision, military-grade sniper rifle, and it promised to make you the undisputed king of duck hunt. It promised to eliminate the heartbreak of missing that godforsaken laughing dog, but did it deliver? Was it merely a plastic tube of lies designed to separate your parents from 20 hard-earned dollars? Today we chart the rise, the fall, and the absolute absurdity of the ultimate 8-bit optical illusion, the Quickshot Deluxe sighting scope. Today on Jay's Retro Toys and Games. It's here, and we are ready to go. Oh my goodness. Here we go. Okay, welcome to the 5th season of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. We had a little bit of a week break. By that I mean we took the first week of June off. Here we are in the second week of June of 2026. This is June 9th, 2026. On this Tuesday, and of course we're back to our regular Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday as we normally are. And also, too, we are celebrating 5 years of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. So this is our 5th anniversary. We hit a milestone. We thank you for your continued support and ready to go for another look at some fantastic toys and games. And this time we are looking at if I can get it up there. See, and this is why I did it this way. I don't know why I did it that way. Not sure. Okay, here we go. We're going to be looking at the Spectravideo Quickshot Deluxe sighting scope. Now, to understand the birth of the Quickshot Deluxe sighting scope, we must first understand the geopolitical landscape of the American living room in the late 1980s. Nintendo was absolute king. The NES Zapper, that iconic gray and later neon orange light gun, was packed into millions of homes. It was a marvel of simple tech, reading light cues from your heavy tube TV to registered hits. But humans, by our very nature, are never satisfied with simplicity. We didn't just want to pull a squeaky plastic trigger, we wanted to feel like elite tactical operatives. Third-party accessory manufacturers smelled blood in the water. Companies like Spectravideo, under their famous Quickshot brand, realized that American children possessed an insatiable appetite for things that clamped, clipped, or snapped onto their existing toys. It didn't actually matter if the accessory did anything useful. The primary metric of cool in 1988 was surface area. If your controller didn't look like it could survive a re-entry into Earth's atmosphere, you simply weren't trying hard enough. Enter the Deluxe Sighting Scope. Now, the marketing team at Spectravideo looked at the sleek, minimalist design of the NES Zapper and said, "You know what this needs? A giant hollow tube stuck to the top of it." It was marketed as a revolutionary targeting upgrade. The box art was a masterclass in psychological warfare, featuring dramatic crosshairs and illustrations that implied you were buying a piece of authentic aerospace technology. In reality, it was a masterpiece of budget-friendly manufacturing. There were no lasers inside. There were no digital readouts. There wasn't even a single piece of magnifying glass. It was, for all intents and purposes, a highly stylized toilet paper roll painted gray with a plastic crosshair glued inside the front end. But to a 9-year-old kid standing in the aisle of a Toys R Us, surrounded by the smell of synthetic cardboard and overeager consumerism, it looked like the key to unlocking absolute digital supremacy. Now let's talk about the actual ergonomics and technological breakthroughs found within this plastic cylinder. Mounting the Quickshot scope to your Zapper was an exercise in pure faith. It utilized a friction lock clamping system, which is a fancy way of saying you push on it until you hear a noise that sounds suspiciously like breaking plastic. Once attached, the weight distribution of your light gun shifted entirely. The Zapper, originally designed for snappy one-handed gunslinging, suddenly possessed the aerodynamics of a brick strapped to a broomstick. But the real comedy began when you actually tried to look through it. You see, the NES Zapper doesn't work like a real firearm. It registers light from the television screen across a wide, forgiving sensor array. The Quickshot scope, however, demanded that you press your face against the hard plastic stock, close one eye, and peer through a tiny aperture. And because there were no optics inside to compensate for human error, the crosshairs were only accurate if your head was positioned at a mathematically perfect, completely unnatural angle. If you tilted your chin by even a millimeter, you weren't looking at the digital duck anymore. You were looking at the internal gray molding of the tube itself. It turned a fast-paced game of arcade reflexes into a grueling chiropractic ordeal. Then kids across the nation were developing neck cramps just trying to align a plastic sight with a bird made of 16 pixels. Let us look closer at the physical comedy of the unboxing experience. When you finally wore down your parents' psychological defenses and they handed over the cash, you didn't just get a toy, you got a visual lesson in late 80s corporate bravado. The packaging was massive. It was a giant cardboard box, mostly filled with fresh air and thick styrofoam inserts that generated enough static electricity to power a small village. When you pulled the scope from its plastic womb, the chemical smell of freshly baked factory polymers immediately filled your bedroom. It was the scent of pure potential. But the tragedy of the unboxing always culminated in the instruction manual. This manual was a single, poorly translated sheet of paper that treated the mounting process like a high-stakes NASA payload deployment. It warned you not to over-tighten the plastic screws. It gave complex diagrams about eye relief and focal distances. It spoke of adjustments and calibrations. All of this text was designed to trick your young brain into believing you were handling a precision instrument. The moment you tried to execute step 4, secure the secondary stabilizer bracket, you realized the bracket didn't actually line up with anything on a standard Nintendo Zapper. You were left looking at a stray piece of gray plastic, wondering if the engineers at Spectravideo had ever actually held a real Nintendo controller in their entire lives. Let us paint a picture of Saturday morning reality. You've convinced your mother to buy this scope. You've spent 20 minutes snapping it onto your Zapper. You boot up Duck Hunt, Game Mode A, Single Duck. You take your position on the living room rug, precisely 4 feet away from the Zenith console TV, and you peer through the Quickshot Deluxe sighting scope. The crosshair centers perfectly on a mallard soaring majestically across the blue sky. You pull the trigger. Clack! The screen flashes white for a microsecond, the duck flies away unscathed, and the dog emerges from the digital weeds laughing at your utter incompetence. You try again. Clack! Another miss. And what Spectravideo failed to mention on the box was that the scope actually made you worse at video games. By forcing you to use a narrow field of vision, you completely lost track of peripheral movement. In games like Wild Gunman or Hogan's Alley, where bandits pop up from different corners of the screen, the scope was a literal death sentence. And while you were busy trying to line up your authentic plastic crosshairs with a gangster in the top left window, another gangster in the bottom right window had already shot you 3 times. The ultimate irony of the Quickshot Deluxe sighting scope is that the optimal strategy for winning light gun games remained unchanged. You threw the scope into the toy box, walked up until your nose was touching the television screen, and cheated like a desperate criminal. The peak of the Quickshot scope's life cycle occurred during the legendary neighborhood sleepover showdowns. This was the moment you tried to flex your tactical superiority in front of your friends. You would pull out the fully assembled, scope-mounted Zapper with the theatrical flair of an action movie hero. Your friends, initially struck by the visual intimidation of the rig, would crowd around the TV, and you would brag about your superior sniper training. You would claim you could hit a clay pigeon from the kitchen. Then the game would start. The sheer embarrassment of missing 5 ducks in a row while your friend ate all your pizza rolls was a formative childhood trauma. The scope didn't make you look like Rambo. It made you look like a kid struggling to look through a telescope backward. And within 10 minutes, the social hierarchy of the living room would reassert itself. Your friend Bobby, using a standard bare-bones orange Zapper while hanging upside down off the couch, would double your high score. The deluxe sighting scope would be passed around not as a weapon of digital destruction, but as a comedy prop. By noon on Sunday, it was being used as a megaphone, a pretend lightsaber, or a structural pillar for a living room blanket fort. To fully dissect this historical impact of the Quickshot Deluxe scope, we have to look at the psychological phenomenon of the third-party trap. During the 8-bit era, kids were fiercely loyal to brands, but parents were fiercely loyal to bargains. Companies like Spectravideo, Camerica, and LJN exploited this gap perfectly. They knew that a parent looking for a birthday gift would see a giant box covered in words like deluxe, professional, and turbo, and assume it was the ultimate gaming upgrade. The trap was simple. Make the accessory look so visually overwhelming on a store shelf that the sheer geometry of the plastic overrode any critical thinking. Well, this led to an era of gaming landfill fodder that has never been matched. We bought plastic stocks to turn our controllers into flight joysticks. We bought massive plastic bases that supposedly let us control games with our feet. And we bought cleaning kits that used harsh chemicals to strip the gold plating right off of our game boards. The Quickshot scope was the crown jewel of this hustle. It survived on shelves purely because it looked incredible in a catalog photo. It was the ultimate bait and click of the analog generation, proving that if you paint something the exact shade of Nintendo gray, children will assume it possesses magical properties. Well, as the 8-bit era gave way to the 16-bit powerhouse of the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, accessories like the Quickshot scope were quietly relegated to garage sales, thrift store bargain bins, and eventually the deep recesses of landfills. They were victims of progress, but more importantly, victims of their own absurdity. Yet looking back through the foggy lens of history, there is something undeniably beautiful about this era of peripheral madness. Companies weren't afraid to fail, and they looked at a piece of gray plastic and saw a canvas for infinite ridiculous possibilities. The Quickshot Deluxe sighting scope didn't make us better gamers, but it made our imaginations run wild. And it made us believe, if only for the duration of a commercial break, that our living rooms were the cutting edge of high-tech warfare. It is a monument to a time when the video games were loud, physical, and delightfully unrefined. It represents a generation of kids who were willing to believe in magic, even if that magic was just a hollow gray tube with a plastic crosshair. And for that, we salute you, Spectravideo. You gave us neck aches. You made us lose to the laughing dog. But you gave us memories that refuse to fade. That wraps up our season premiere, folks. And if you enjoyed this journey into the heart of plastic darkness, leave a comment below telling me what useless childhood accessory you wasted your allowance on. Until next time, keep your cartridges clean, keep your screens bright, and whatever you do, don't let the dog laugh at you. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I'm Jason Icanio, thanking you for our season premiere of the 5th anniversary of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Episode 129 is finished. We'll see you Thursday when we start a new chapter. And that means back and forth, we'll be going with NES accessories and then looking at a cartridge game. And we're going to be starting off with the Activision series of games starting this Thursday. It should be fun. And which one are we going to cover first? They'll go in alphabetical order, but do not look. Okay, don't look. Be surprised and interested in the game that we're going to be covering on Thursday. Till then, have a great night. Remember to be honest and be real. Keep it simple, stupid. And always remember to keep your pants up, because you never know when you're going to need something else going on with your life. And that's true in every which way, shape, or form. Have a good night. Bye for now.